Welcome, everyone! Today, we're diving into a gripping what-if scenario in the Naruto universe. The story is called What If Naruto, the Fateful Uchiha? By Milexcore. If you're intrigued by this intense tale, make sure to check out the full story through the link in the description. Let's get started. Kushina found out about the pregnancy suddenly, during one of her missions, during the Third Great Shinobi War. She was wounded by an enemy attack, and Kyuubi chakra flowed from inside her body and began to heal her wounds. After defeating her opponents, her teammate being a medical kunoichi checked her condition and discovered that Kushina was pregnant. This was unexpected for her, but she accepted the fact and was overjoyed. After all, she was about to give up being a shinobi, planning to start a family of her own with Minato when this war was finally over. This was the last mission for her, but at that moment she didn't know that the Kyuubi chakra that healed her had also affected her child. A few days later, at her first follow-up appointment, Tsunade observed that small amounts of Bu chakra had appeared in the baby's body and started attacking his body. When she told Kushina about this, the latter froze in horror, recalling how she had treated herself with Kyuubi's chakra on her last mission. The chakra must have unknowingly, or at the instigation of the bijou itself, entered the child's body. See, can you do something about it, Tsunade-sama? Please? You have to help me. Kushina begged her, terrified. If her child died, she would blame herself for the rest of her life. Oh, of course, replied a stunned Tsunade, seeing the state Kushina was in. She would have done it anyway even if she hadn't asked for it. After all, it was her duty as a medical kunoichi. She put out her hands, on which green chakra appeared, and began trying to neutralize Kyuubi's chakra in the body of the yet unborn child. After a few minutes, Kushina's face turned pale and flooded with sweat. She even felt a few drops of blood on her tongue, but she clenched her teeth and endured the pain for her baby. Done, answered after a while Tsunade. Kyuubi's chakra is monstrously strong and it was hard to influence it, but I did my best. Tears of relief flowed into Kushina's eyes, and she bowed her head low. Thank you, Tsunade-sama. Don't be silly, shouted Tsunade. Raise your head. You need to rest. She rebuked her. It seemed that the problem had disappeared, and Kushina, together with Minato, could enjoy the vision of their future life with the child. They couldn't wait to find out its gender and choose a suitable name, but soon, just 2 weeks later, Kushina woke up in the middle of the night vomiting blood. Seeing the condition his wife was in, Minato immediately transferred her to Konoha's main hospital with his unique space-time technique. There Tsunade quickly examined her condition, after which her eyes opened wide in disbelief. Impossible! She exclaimed, puzzled by the sudden discovery. After all, I had removed it completely. How is it possible that the Bu chakra is attacking the child's body again? About what are you talking about? Exclaimed a horrified Minato. Could it be that Kyuubi's seal has come loose? He suggested, pale in the face. He immediately rolled up his wife's clothes and checked her seal, which was intact. There was no sign of any recent penetration of even a small amount of Bu chakra. Surely he would have noticed that, after all, he had modified the seal himself so that Kyuubi wouldn't cause so much trouble for his wife. Tsunade thought about the reason for the reappearance of this chakra, but nothing came to mind. This time Kyuubi's chakra was stronger than the last time because of its greater quantity, but she was still fortunately able to neutralize it, without much problem. However, the pain it caused Kushina made her scream in agony even while unconscious. She needs to stay in the hospital for observation, and I will monitor her regularly and see if the baby's condition worsens, Tsunade explained. Is everything okay with the baby? Minato asked. At the moment he looks normal, however, I don't know what about his future. Perhaps Kyuubi's chakra has already caused some consequences that we don't know, she said frankly, not wanting to hide anything, even if it was brutal for the parents. Minato stayed with his wife until the morning at the hospital. He was quite lucky that he was free from the mission for the time being and was able to react so quickly. If he hadn't been there and Kushina had been left unconscious, she might even have died along with their child. As soon as Kushina woke up, Tsunade was already by her side, examining her condition. Her hand trembled, and her eyes shook in disbelief. "I don't believe. Don't tell me that." The next words could not pass through Minato's throat. Tears flowed from Kushina's eyes, and a huge sense of guilt overwhelmed her whole heart and mind. If only she hadn't used that cursed chakra then. Minato immediately hugged her, not wanting to leave her alone in all this. "I don't understand this," whispered Tsunade to herself. "After all, the seal is stable. How is it possible that this chakra keeps appearing in it?" She grabbed her face, pondering. The Bu chakra was not attacking Kushina per se, but her child. This was in no way logical. Even her grandmother, who was Kyuubi's first Jinchuriki, had no such problems with any of her pregnancies. The following weeks passed with the constant removal of Kyuubi's chakra so that too much of it would not accumulate, which could endanger the baby and Kushina herself. Minato and Jiraiya carefully analyzed Kushina's seal from every angle, but there were no chakra leaks. Everything was stable and intact. At one point, Minato personally contacted Kyuubi. He put his hand to his wife's seal and poured his chakra and a particle of consciousness into it. Appearing in a large room filled to the ankles with water, Minato looked at the huge bars behind which the nine-tailed fox resided. Kyuubi called his name, and he opened his two big blinds. "What have you done to my wife and child?" he growled furiously. The huge fox with 9 tails snorted contemptuously. "I don't know what you're talking about, man." "Don't talk nonsense," growled Minato. "Why does your chakra keep appearing and attacking my child?" Kyuubi did not answer. He remained silent, watching the furious leader of the Leaf Village. "The seal is fully stable. Until she herself summons my chakra, I am unable to do anything," he replied after a while, closing his eyes. He had no intention of talking to the man again. Minato snorted and lowered his seal, knowing that Fox had no intention of discussing it further. He couldn't sense a lie in the beast either, so the problem might lie somewhere else. The next few months passed in exactly the same way. Kyuubi's chakra began to appear in ever-increasing quantities, and the first effects of its attacks began to show. The child was developing very poorly and lacked life force. Tsunade already knew that his body would be very weak in the future and it would be difficult for him to move at all. She could not figure out the reason for the constant appearance of Bu chakra in the child's body. She had never heard of such a case. Even other Jinchuriki during pregnancy had no such problems. She felt guilty that she couldn't help Kushina. She didn't want to let her first child die. Unconsciously, she saw herself in Kushina from years ago, when she lost her beloved and her younger brother in the war. She didn't want that vision to come true and did everything to prevent it. She delved into all knowledge about Biju and Jinchuriki, even the historical one that said they were born through the Sage of the Six Paths. She expanded her already vast medical knowledge and experimented with new things. However, all the ideas and theories she came up with failed. In the 4th month, Kushina and Minato learned the sex of the baby. He had already developed to the level to see his sex organ. Tsunade had to stimulate its growth with her own medical chakra each time after removing the Bu chakra so that it could develop fairly normally in the mother's belly. Otherwise, the pregnancy could be prolonged and there would probably be some unwanted side effects. It was a boy, and they named him after the protagonist from one of Jiraiya's books, Naruto. They thus made Jiraiya the godfather of Naruto and Tsunade his godmother for all her help to the family. On October 10th, an early delivery occurred. It was an unexpected shock, as the scheduled due date was still 2 weeks away. During this time, Kyuubi's holding seal weakened and a considerable amount of Fox chakra flowed out of it. Kyuubi himself did not manage to escape. His chakra made Naruto's already weak condition worsen dozens of times in a matter of moments. In the delivery room a few miles away from Konoha, Minato and Jiraiya kept Kyuubi's seal in check and minimized the outflow of Bu chakra to an absolute minimum. After Kushina's hard struggle, Naruto finally left her belly and showed himself to the world for the first time. Even at first glance, Tsunade found that his condition was monstrous. He was full of his own blood on a pale and skinny body. "Don't cut the umbilical cord. Otherwise he will die," Tsunade warned the 2 midwives, and herself took to treating the baby, who was born practically half dead. Kyuubi's chakra was in every cell of Naruto. It took her almost an hour to remove all of the foreign chakra, and only then did the first damage to the baby appear. He howled the pale Tsunade. His chakra system is destroyed. Tears flowed into the eyes of the child's parents, and they both began to cry. Kushina cried out to her son in despair, Sorry and Naruto. This is my fault. Because of me you were born this way. Minato could no longer stand his wife's words and hugged her tightly, and the baby Tsunade handed to them. Jiraiya silently left the room, not wanting to reveal his tears, and Tsunade trembled as she looked at her hand stained with Naruto's blood. Does fate have to be so cruel? She whispered to herself, not even realizing that her face was all in tears. Naruto was born a cripple, unable to use chakra. She clenched her fists with all her might. It couldn't be like this. I still need to examine him thoroughly. His condition is not stable yet, she said to herself, trying to give herself more strength. She apologized again to his parents and cut the umbilical cord connecting little Naruto to Kushina, then took him to another room. It wasn't over yet. Despite the removal of Kyuubi chakra from Naruto's body, there was still a lot left to do. The damage that the Bu chakra had caused Naruto further to be closer to death than normal life. I beg you, don't give up. Naruto, she whispered pleadingly to him as she laid him on a specially prepared crib. She washed her hands of the blood and, continuing to tremble, began to examine his condition. In the next room, Minato comforted his wife until she lost consciousness from extreme exhaustion. He tried to be strong by her side to give her support, but now that he was left alone, he began to cry quietly, no longer holding back his tears, letting them flow. More than 2 hours later, a pale and tired Tsunade walked back into the delivery room, holding a sleeping Naruto in her arms. Minato raised his eyes to her and called out quietly, "And what about Naruto?" Tsunade gently passed her son into his arms and sighed heavily. In addition to the damaged chakra circulation system, which is no longer usable, his body is very weak. The muscles have a strange condition that makes them barely hold on to the rest of the body, and the bones, if he made any violent movement, would surely break away from the body. In the future, he needs constant care and cannot move on his own, warned Minato in a stern voice, at which he nodded gravely. I understand. These are not all, she continued in a heavy and breaking voice. I just performed an operation on him, she explained, and Minato's eyes widened in disbelief, but he didn't say anything. He couldn't. He was only able to listen to more bad news from Tsunade. His skeletal system was undeveloped, one pair of ribs was missing, as well as several other bones, and deformities had formed in some places, which in the future would cause Naruto to be completely crippled. I had to use chakra and special techniques to stimulate bone growth and implement appropriate treatment. If I hadn't done it now, I'm afraid it would have been too late for that in the future. An infant's body is flexible and adaptable for the first few weeks after birth, so this was precisely the best time to do it. It's the same as becoming a Jinchuriki. The younger the person, preferably just a newborn baby, the better he will get used to carrying a biju in his own body. Tomorrow I'll write down the entire course of the operation, and also do a deep analysis of his body, I'm afraid. For now, I just brought his health to a stable level, she explained and began to walk away. She needed to rest. This day was really difficult, not only for her, but for everyone. Wake up Kushina, Naruto needs to be fed, he is missing a lot of weight, she informed at the end. When Tsunade left, Minato sighed heavily and gently cuddled his son. He was afraid he might do something to him, so he made no moves, not even the slightest ones. Naruto. As your father, no matter what happens in the future, even if you don't become a shinobi, we will always love you with your mother. Whispered quietly and placed a kiss on his forehead. No matter what happens, we will not abandon you. You will always be able to count on us. Swore to him. The next day, around noon, Tsunade picked Naruto up from Kushina before feeding him. He had to be fasted for a checkup that Tsunade wanted to perform. She and her assistant, Shizune, took the boy to a special room in the hospital, where they were to use medical technology to take x-rays of his body and bone structure. Despite passing the surgery, Tsunade wanted to know all the details in case she missed something. And the X-ray was precisely to describe it in detail and in detail. Before doing so, however, she first examined his condition with her chakra, wanting to know how his body took in yesterday's surgery and if there were any problems. What the hell? She exclaimed in disbelief. Trembling, she took a few steps backward, almost tripping over her own feet in the process. Shizune caught her at the last moment and shouted, "What happened to Tsunade-sama? Does Naruto have any post-operative complications?" No. That's not it," she said, while shaking her head violently from side to side. "Kyuubi's C chakra has appeared again," she growled, unable to believe her own senses. Shizune's eyes trembled. How is this possible? After all, Naruto is not Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. So how come this chakra keeps appearing in his body? Ah! Croaked in pain Shizune. "Tsunade-sama!" shouted a stunned Shizune, looking at her master, who clung to her arm with all her might, trembling with rage. Excuse Shizune, she apologized to her suddenly, realizing that she had lost control of herself. She clutched her head, feeling like her brain was about to explode in the next moment. What's all this about? She muttered to herself, after all, this is impossible. Damn! She growled, hitting a nearby wall. Fortunately, she restrained herself at the last moment from destroying and possibly injuring the child. Calm down, Tsunade, there must be an explanation for this, you just haven't gotten to it yet, she said to herself in hope. She promised to help Naruto Kushina. Naruto is also her godchild, she could not let him die. Now that he has been born, we can do all kinds of research, everything will be clear for sure. She took a deep breath, wondering where she should start. Let's do this X-ray first, and then try to find out where this chakra comes from. Its source is not the seal and the Kyuubi itself, there must be another source, Tsunade stated, and subjected Naruto to an X-ray. She covered Naruto's thyroid and reproductive organ with a special protection that absorbs radiation and subjected him to the X-ray. After a while, Tsunade and Shizune looked at several two-dimensional X-ray images of Naruto's entire body. After the operation, his skeletal system looks healthy. One thing we have out of the way, explained Tsunade, only the image of his eyeballs doesn't look good. A CT scan and MRI need to be done, Shizune recommended. They were using the highest quality equipment they had. Medical development had gone up exponentially over the past year, thanks to the huge financial support that went to the hospital and the Minato and Jiraiya Research and Science Department. I'll get everything ready right away. Some time later, after doing some more research, Tsunade drew a conclusion. Naruto has a damaged optic nerve, however, why? He didn't have any accident, after all, he was just born, so it's probably the result of Kyuubi's constant chakra attack. In addition, the length of the eyeball in the anterior-posterior axis is only 9.3 mm in Naruto. In newborns, the length usually does not exceed 16 mm, and in a 1-year-old child it is 19 mm. This means that in Naruto's case it is far too short, even for a newborn, which could contribute to a serious eye defect or other conditions in the future. Eyeball surgery is dangerous in children, can't we do something else? Inquired Shizune of her mistress. Tsunade mused, I know, however, there is no other choice. The damaged optic nerve is not a congenital defect, but the result of a Bu chakra attack. We have maybe 18 months of surgery behind it before it has serious effects and will rebound with a serious visual defect, maybe even blindness. Unfortunately, I have never seen such a short eyeball. I can only stimulate it to grow with my chakra, but I don't know if it will help. I have never done that, she explained slowly. However, there is no time for that at the moment. I purposely did not disperse Kyuubi chakra in Naruto's body so that we can get to its source. I will perform morphology at this time, and you call me someone from the Hyuga clan. I need their Byakugan. That's right. Came off Shizune while disappearing from the eyes of the mistress. Meanwhile, Tsunade took a minimal amount of blood from Naruto and performed a morphology, which showed nothing special. Virtually everything was normal if one compares his current weak state to the results. After a while, Shizune showed up with a woman in her 40s from the Hyuga clan. Good morning, Tsunade-sama, the woman bowed slightly. Fujiko-san, good to see you. Greeted Tsunade. Shizune has probably already explained to you, but I need your dojutsu to inspect this child's body in detail. I see, she replied, and without further discussion she approached the newborn and activated her Byakugan. What is this? She was horrified by the monstrous chakra residing in his body. Tsunade explained, this is Fujiko-san's Kyuubi chakra. This child is the son of our Jinchuriki, and for some reason this chakra is constantly appearing in him, even if he is no longer in his mother's belly. And I guess you need me to find its source, am I right? Tsunade confirmed, yes, with your eyesight it will be faster than if I were to look for the cause myself. I see. She walked closer to the child and focused on looking for the cause of this dark chakra. There wasn't much of it herself, but it was very strong, and to ordinary people it is strongly corrosive. Tsunade had to give Naruto a painkiller injection to make him endure all the tests they have planned. It's also possible that his body has managed to get used to this chakra to some degree and doesn't feel as much pain as it should, which is why he hasn't cried since he was born. It was also a little strange because he hasn't made many sounds from himself since he came into this world. His dilated pupils could indicate that he was subdued because of that chakra and couldn't feel all things properly for now. Fujiko squinted her eyes and after a moment said, as you know, children are born with a very small amount of chakra, but even from it you can deduce how much chakra they will have in the future. However, he has no chakra at all. His chakra circulatory system is damaged, she admitted sadly. It is possible that even if he had a functioning chakra system, he would have a very small amount of chakra. Chakra is made up of physical and spiritual energy, but he has virtually none. Its damaged body gives it practically zero amounts of physical energy, and as for spiritual energy, it's a bit complicated, she admitted. In what sense? Tsunade inquired. Well, first I have to explain to you where this chakra comes from. Have you found the cause? Exclaimed Tsunade hopefully. Fujiko nodded her head, probably. Have you heard about chakra worms? She asked her. Yes, I have read some studies about them. They are mainly formed due to foreign chakra in the body. Wait a minute. Could this be the reason? Tsunade widened her eyes unnaturally, getting a sudden enlightenment. I'm not sure if these are them, I've never seen them with my own eyes, but they resemble them. They resemble dark red spiders and are manning the entire chakra circulatory system of a child, but because of the lack of chakra, they feed on life force and cells. Tsunade and Shizune listened to the explanation in disbelief. Such a monstrosity befell Naruto, and it was all because of a slight contact with Kyuubi's chakra when Kushina was injured and had to be healed. Chakra worms were first observed during scientific research conducted by the Research and Science Department. The research involved the transfer of chakra from one person to another. It was noticed at one point that some people did not feel well after the study. Parasites were detected in their chakra circulatory system, which fed on chakra and attacked body cells. Further research confirmed that if a sizable amount of foreign chakra enters the body, it can give birth to these parasites. But interestingly enough, they didn't always appear. Further research detected that they only form when the chakra of two people are not compatible with each other. That is, if the chakra of the person who transfers it to someone else has been nourished by negative emotions for a long time, for example. After all, spiritual energy arises in large amounts from emotions, spiritual development, meditation, exercise, or life experiences. It could also be the other way around. If a person who had developed well spiritually and meditated a lot passed his chakra to a person who had just fed on negative emotions, for example, a criminal, chakra worms would also appear in such a person. The Department of Research and Science confirmed that chakra must be compatible with each other on some level, otherwise mixing them in one chakra system can create chakra worms. Fujiko continued, these chakra worms are definitely different from the ones that have been studied. Ordinary chakra worms didn't produce their own chakra, they only attack body cells. And these ones feed on the child's body and produce this corrosive chakra. This is probably the reason for the constant appearance of Bu chakra in him. Tsunade, being further in shock, nodded slightly, yes, that would be really logical. Even though I've been dissipating this chakra for the past few months when he was in his mother's belly, it kept coming back, and now we know it's because of them. We now need to get them out of Naruto's body as soon as possible. Naruto? Fujiko asked. That's his name, Namake's Naruto. This is Minato's son. Exclaimed a stunned Fujiko, widening her eyes involuntarily. Tsunade confirmed. There was no point in hiding it, since there were already rumors going around the village that Minato was still being seen with some woman in the hospital. Rumors of their child and pregnancy problems were not unknown to people either. After all, now that Naruto has come into the world, everything will become even clearer, and Minato himself will probably confirm all the rumors soon. Mused Tsunade. Shizune. Ask the head of the Aburame clan to come to the hospital. We need to remove those chakra worms from Naruto's body as soon as possible. She informed her. When Shizune left, Tsunade asked Fujiko's question, then what is the connection with spiritual energy in Naruto? You didn't say that before. Despite its small amount, it seems really strong. I feel it has a lot of potential unlike physical energy. This is my guess, but for a weak body, he could have been born with a powerful spirit or mind to match the strong spiritual energy. She explained her guess. It's interesting, I understand your point of view. Well, we'll see in the future. I'll definitely keep an eye on it, Tsunade announced. A few hours later, Shibi Aburame sealed in a small container all the chakra worms that were in Naruto's body. This was confirmed by Fujiko, who watched the whole process with her Byakugan. Thank you both again for your help. If you ever need my help in the future, I will gladly repay my debt, Tsunade said seriously. Don't worry. Shibi waved his hand. It's my pleasure. I have never seen such parasites before. My clan will personally take care of the research on them. He informed her. Of course, I will also give you all the information related to them. Tsunade nodded. Well, I count on you. Also, don't hesitate to seek help from the research and science department. My teammate Orochimaru will definitely be willing to research them. I understand, he replied on his way out. After removing all the chakra worms, Tsunade also neutralized the remnants of Kyuubi's chakra in Naruto's body. She also did a lot more research today, and only in the evening did she hand Naruto over to Kushina, to whom she gave the good news. For the next few months, Naruto and his mother remained in the hospital and were closely monitored by Tsunade, who practically performed some sort of checkup on him every day. She also stimulated his growth with her chakra from time to time and instituted appropriate treatment to heal him and improve his overall health. 6 months later, Tsunade increased her knowledge through experiments conducted in large numbers and was finally ready to perform Naruto's eye surgery. Both of his parents waited impatiently outside the operating room, where the operation had already taken nearly 3 hours. After that time, Tsunade came out with a sleeping Naruto in her arms and handed him to his parents with a smile on her lips. Everything went according to plan. I've repaired the damaged optic nerve and by stimulating with chakra, I've lengthened his eyeballs to a normal level, which will help with avoiding a vision defect in the future, she explained confidently, to which Kushina and Minato sighed with relief. He'll have to stay in the hospital for a week so I can monitor his condition, but all should be well. Thank you Tsunade-sama, you don't even know how grateful we are to you. Expressed her immense gratitude to Kushina. Don't worry, after all, he's my godchild. She laughed. 2 years after Naruto's birth, Kushina gave birth to a second child, also a boy, whom they named Menma. He was born healthy and strong, and the pregnancy went on without any complications. Kushina had also already completely given up being a shinobi and asked her husband to increase the effect of Kyuubi's seal to completely block his chakra. This would allow her to drop her last worries before her next pregnancy. Tsunade also better understood the workings of chakra worms after reading research on them, and was able to pull them out of the baby's body even during pregnancy. She learned how to do this in case there were further complications with Kushina's second pregnancy, and she didn't even need anyone from the Aburame clan to do it anymore. Tsunade continued to look for a way to cure Naruto of his strange condition, which caused the muscles in his body to detach from his flesh and bones when he made some sudden movement. Fortunately, nothing like this had happened yet, as he couldn't make any movement on his own due to his weak body. Unfortunately, there was nothing she could do about the damaged chakra circulation system. Kyuubi's chakra and chakra worms had completely destroyed it, and the damage was irreversible. Minato became the leader of the Leaf Village after the war, the fourth Hokage, and revealed right after Naruto was born that he had married Kushina Uzumaki and had a son with her. He also continued to allocate a huge sum of money to technological development and to the research and science division, which he commissioned to find a cure for his son. The division's commander, Orochimaru, along with all its members, came up with many theories and conducted a huge number of experiments, but nothing concrete could be found. Time and time again, Tsunade rejected the successive theories and pseudo-treatments. They wanted to subject Naruto to considering them foolish and baseless, and those that seemed good didn't pan out. Already 2 years old, Naruto was barely able to move his limbs through the practical lack of muscles in his body. Subsequent tests discovered that in addition to his strange condition, his body could not form new muscle fibers in the normal way. This meant that his already minimal movement could not produce completely any new muscles. Naruto was born with a very weak body, a strange condition that caused rapid movement to detach his muscles from the rest of his body, and he could not practically create new muscles to become stronger. He was crippled in every sense of the word. It also appeared that his brain had undergone a strange mutation that allowed it to adapt to Kyuubi chakra's constant attacks during pregnancy and childbirth. This could have been the reason why he is still alive, being attacked by this chakra, for nearly 9 months. The brain itself is a huge mystery, and currently they have not understood how it works even 10%, so they have no explanation for its mutation in Naruto. This has also led to the fact that, with a year of life already under his belt, Naruto was able to communicate normally with his parents. It was also detected that he has a fair amount of spiritual energy, unlike physical energy, which he has practically none. Come to think of it, he wouldn't have been able to create his own chakra anyway due to his damaged chakra system. The following year, when Naruto turned 3, Kushina gave birth once again. This time it was a red-haired girl, resembling a mirror image of her mother. They gave her a beautiful name, Himiko. However, during the delivery, disaster struck. A masked man appeared in the delivery room several miles away from Konoha and took from her mother's arms, Himiko. A fight ensued at that point against the masked man and Minato, which ended with Kyuubi's release. To avoid destroying the village, Minato, using his space-time technique, teleported Kyuubi away from Konoha and they fought a battle there. Fortunately, he was able to restrain and seriously injure the previously cloaked figure, so he only fought the enraged Bu. Thanks to the dedication of Hiruzen, the third Hokage, who used a powerful sealing technique and sealed Kyuubi into Himiko, they managed to win and save the village. Himiko became Kyuubi's third Jinchuriki, and Minato hailed her as the heroine of the entire village. Kushina was in grave condition after losing her Biju and would normally die after something like that. However, she comes from the powerful Uzumaki clan, who are famous for having strong physical bodies. It is also said that the Uzumaki are distant cousins of the Senju and they have many things in common, one of which is powerful physical bodies and huge chakra. Thanks to Tsunade's care, who sealed in Kushina the remnants of Kyuubi's chakra extracted from the atmosphere after the battle, she was able to recover. After several months, regularly reducing the amount in her body, she was finally able to do without this chakra altogether. She was now a normal human being, but her abnormally huge amount of chakra, thanks to the Biju, had diminished terribly, but she didn't care, having finally abandoned being a shinobi in favor of her family. It wasn't without consequences either. Her vital energy diminished by about 10 years, but it was still a small price to pay for surviving and being able to spend many years with a wonderful family. Kei-chan. Why is the snow cold? Asked little Naruto staying outside in the winter. He was wrapped on all sides with warm clothes and only a piece of his face was visible. He held some snow in his hands and felt the cold through his gloves. This was the first time he felt something like this, something other than the warmth of a cozy home and the pleasures his parents bestowed upon him. That's because the snow is below your body temperature, that's why you feel the cold. It's the same with a warm bath, for example, the water has more degrees than your body so you feel pleasant warmth, she explained to him calmly. She knew he would understand, Naruto was really intelligent. Cool. He purred in a solemn voice with blushing cheeks. What's not? Kushina giggled along with her son. Naruto improved a small ball of snow on the ground and sighed tiredly after a while. Are we going back? You can play outside tomorrow too, Kushina suggested. Not yet, muttered little Naruto, and Kushina laughed with amusement seeing his stubbornness. They played together for a few minutes before Naruto's head flew back and he fell asleep snuggled against his mother's chest. Naruto got tired monstrously fast and slept a lot during the day. His sleep could last a total of up to 18 hours a day, along with nighttime. Unlike their other children, Kushina and Minato never had any problems with Naruto and crying or waking up at night, as they did with Menma and Himiko. Naruto was a sweet child, calm and smart, and didn't need to be told twice for him to remember something. Kushina affectionately rubbed his slightly flushed cheeks and stood up, taking him in her arms. They returned home, where she dressed him and tucked him into a warm bed. 2 years later. Naruto had grown up a bit thanks to healthy eating, but he was the height of his younger brother Menma. This one was even 2 kilos heavier than him. Naruto was really smart and was starting to realize that there was something wrong with him. He was just different from the rest of the kids his age. When he was playing shogi with his father after dinner, he asked him seriously, "Ju-san? I have a question." "What is it about Naru-chan?" "Because you know, Menma can already walk, right?" He stated more than asked, but his father nodded, come on a little uncertainly. Minato already suspected what he might ask, and started looking for a good answer he could give him. Why is it that at 5 years old, I can't stand on my own? He looked at his father with questioning eyes. This? Children are different and everyone develops at their own pace, you know? You, unlike Menma, were already able to speak at 1 year old, remember? He is only learning at 3 years old. Oh, and Naruto sweetly opened his mouth in surprise. That's how it works. He slapped his clenched hand against the other, learning something amazing. I think I'm going to win with you. Came off Minato making another move in the game, distracting Naruto from the topic they had been talking about for a while. What? You don't stand a chance. He called out, making his turn. Kakashi got a special mission to carry out from the Hokage to take little Naruto to Konoha's main library. Naruto liked to read and was a fast learner. He had practically a photographic memory, so he absorbed any knowledge without any problem. Naruto sometimes traveled with Kushina and Minato around the village, but he had never yet been to Konoha's main library. This time, however, his parents were busy for a while, so Minato sent his last surviving student, Kakashi Hatake, with Naruto. Naruto had already read most of the books in their home library. It wasn't huge, but it still contained a fair amount of books compared to other homes. He really enjoyed reading history telling about the formation of the great villages, the clans, or previous eras. He enjoyed listening to stories about great shinobi who shook the world with their skills. At first Minato and Kushina forbade him from reading or learning about the shinobi world and chakra, but they decided to let it go, seeing his determination that would cause him to learn about his condition. They both knew full well that their son could not become a shinobi, nor would he live long. His life force had been severely truncated by chakra worms, which had absorbed it like leeches. The truth was brutal, and everyone sought with all their might to solve his short life, but they could only prolong it to a small degree. Tsunade estimated that he would live to maybe his 10th or 11th birthday at the most before he died. They didn't tell Naruto this and decided to let him enjoy his life to the fullest. They would rather he live in ignorance than if he were to suffer from the constant pain and mental limitations imposed on him by the knowledge of his condition. He wants this one. He pointed to a high shelf where a certain volume on chakra was ripe. Pick me up, Kakashi. He commanded him with a giggle and raised his hands in the air. Without a word, Kakashi grabbed him gently by his small body, and Naruto tried to reach the book, but it fell out when he tried to pull it out with the tips of his fingers. Ah! He exclaimed, stunned. However, instead of falling to the ground, the book hovered in the air, caught by a long and slimy tongue. Hold the little one, hissed the pale-skinned man, handing him the book. Naruto blinked his eyes twice and gently took it from him. Bull covered his nose and wiped the mucus on his clothes, at which Orochimaru reacted in a strange way. "Orochimaru-sama," greeted Kakashi out of politeness. "A book on chakra. Despite not being able to use it, he muttered while reading the title, and Kakashi opened his eyes wide with fear. "Maybe you should be interested in something." "Orochimaru-sama," exclaimed Kakashi, admonishing him in a stern tone, "you can't talk about it." "Is that so?" He shrugged his shoulders. Naruto looked puzzled at Kakashi. He was acting very strangely, and on top of that, this guy, what was he talking about? What was he trying to convey? Orochimaru did not stay with them any longer and left without a word, but just as he was about to disappear into another alley with books, he looked into young Naruto's eyes and said seriously, "Start living." "What?" he repeated, stunned. Why did those two words make him feel so strange about himself? A week later, Orochimaru became a missing shinobi. The fourth Hokage caught him while he was experimenting on living people and children in his secret laboratory. After the incident, the Research and Science Department, where Sannin was commander, was shrouded in dark glory, and the Konoha Council demanded that their funding be cut. However, Minato refused because of his son, and without hesitation continued to devote huge sums of money to further development. That day, after Naruto lay down to sleep in his room and Kushina wished him good night while giving him a kiss on the forehead, he felt something under his pillowcase. It was a different feeling resting his head against a soft pillow, so he quickly realized. Confused, he undid the zipper and pulled out several sheets of paper, filled to the brim with some text. "Start living," he read the large words on the back of one of the cards. The strange guy named Orochimaru, whom he had recently met, had said the same thing to him. He turned on the lamp next to the bed so he could see the small letters better and started reading without thinking. It was too strange to find some documents in his pillow, so he was really curious. However, what he found there exceeded all his expectations and thoughts about it. Due to Kyuubi's chakra attack during the pregnancy of his mother, Kushina, his body has been weakened at the cellular level and is incapable of healing at the present time. By the entry of foreign chakra, Biju chakra, into his yet unborn body, this caused chakra worms to be born in his body, and for 9 months of pregnancy, they fed on his cells and life force, before being discovered after his birth by Tsunade along with. They were proven to have destroyed the then developing chakra circulatory system and weakened the body to the worst possible state. This caused him to possess a strange medical condition, as well as the body having difficulty producing new muscle fibers. He underwent a successful operation on his skeletal system after birth. And 6 months later another difficult operation performed by. Deep analysis detected that the brain underwent a mutation to adapt due to the constant attacks of Biju chakra produced by chakra worms during pregnancy, which is the main reason for its current state. The mutation went the wrong way, making it impossible for the brain to heal his body in any way at the moment. One of the main theories accepted for his condition is that the brain considers the current state of his body as healthy, and any major or minor attempt to change, cure, ends in failure. The brain, as a computer, issues commands to treat every attempt at cure as a disease, an attack on the body, by which it cures and restores the body to its original state. Because of the mutation of the brain, its functions are enhanced and it is not possible to change its. The amount of vital energy in Naruto's body is enough for him to survive for a maximum of 10 or 11 years. At present, it is not possible to increase it on a larger scale, but research now being conducted indicates. With trembling hands, Naruto read page after page of documents. Everything was there, and literally. His situation, the state of his health and body, or the sheer length of his life was described in detail. The examinations, surgeries, and ongoing treatment during the last few short years of his life were described in detail. Documents included detailed explanations of his problems and how they arose. Some things he couldn't even understand by the scientific terms that were used there, but he understood them as a whole. There were several theories explaining the oddity of his body, and each successive one was harder and harder for his weak mind to accept. Naruto didn't want to believe it, he wanted to consider it a lie and a silly joke, but the longer he thought about it, the more things began to come together. His weak body, his practical lack of muscles, or his high intelligence, which was strange for people his age. Even Orochimaru's words when they met last time and Kakashi's strange behavior. The dots slowly began to connect. Why didn't I connect all this before? He asked himself. His heart was pounding hard and he felt himself sweating. This is too much at once for someone so young, on top of finding out about it like this. Naruto recalled many situations where he could understand that he was different, sick, crippled. Whether it was through the fact that other children his age, or even younger, could walk normally without help. Was it through checkups with Aunt Tsunade, who was his godmother? Taking various medications, telling him that it was his turn and that Menma and Himiko had already taken their portion. Antiviral injections for weather change, or many other things. All of this was distracted by his parents or other people trying to tell him that all was well with him. They perfectly distracted him from what was happening to him so that he could enjoy life. In ignorance. Ignorance is truly bliss, he muttered, pawing at his chest. He felt such a monstrous pain in his heart that he could not control himself. He was finally going to die in a few years. And that because some stupid chakra worms had eaten up all his life energy. This is total madness. He shook his head from side to side, trying to shake it off, to somehow force himself to reject the fact that he was crippled or conclude that it was all just a lie and go back to a normal life, a life of illusion created for his good by his parents. Start living. Orochimaru's words spoken then in the library echoed in his mind. I want to live. I don't want to die. He stated. What else was he supposed to choose to die? Someone who tossed him these documents forcibly pulled him out of his happy bubble of illusion, only to drop him into the real world the next moment. Should he be grateful to him? It finally made him aware of such an important thing that he was blind to. However, he did not know what to feel. He wanted to run to his parents and ask them all about it, but because of his condition he was unable to. It was the first time in total that he wanted to walk so much on his own. Before that he was resigned to the fact that he develops later unlike other children, and didn't think too much about it. He could have called out to them, surely they would have heard him, but he thought that was silly. For the rest of the night he couldn't sleep, he didn't even try. He read the documents many times and thought about many things. What was his life supposed to look like now? Seemingly it was simple, he could not actually change anything and should continue to live as before. However, with this knowledge and awareness, is anyone able to? Awareness that he will barely live out his teenage days and may die? He had already lived half his life, at only 5 years old. The thought of death chilled him. He had become so accustomed to a loving family and a happy and pleasant life that he didn't want to lose it. However, there was something worse. It was the loss of the future he had dreamed of. The possibility of becoming a shinobi like his parents and using chakra. At the moment he felt it was too mystical for him. It was like an ant trying to reach the heavens. It was too impossible. Fate made the ant too small and worthless, allowing it to only dream of heaven. Just as fate made him born a cripple, giving him only thoughts and dreams of being a shinobi. Naruto grabbed his face as he lay numbly on his bed and stared unconsciously at the ceiling. He had turned off the light a while ago so that his parents wouldn't catch him if they accidentally woke up during the night and passed by. He realized slowly that he might be considered extremely lucky anyway. After all, he was born as the eldest son of the Hokage of Konoha himself, the greatest of all the great villages. One of the strongest men on the entire globe. He had the best medical kunoichi by his side, who became his godmother. She examined him regularly every week and spent all her time finding ways to give him a normal life. He was a huge lucky guy. He wasn't just an ordinary ant, but a golden spoon-fed ant. Plus, a crippled ant and the child of the queen of the ant hill herself. At the thought of this, he laughed to himself. He was not born in a poor region without parents, where he would have died at birth, or even at the very beginning of his pregnancy. Despite his disability and short life, he still had some options. He did not want to die. With the knowledge of his condition, he also could not hand over control of his life to anyone else. He himself had to grasp his fate in his hands and control it. Start living, repeated Orochimaru's words. Yes, he had to start living. He had to become someone that even fate itself could not threaten. He raised himself with his hands to sit down and looked out the window, from which moonlight was coming into the room. He thought of being a shinobi, he dreamed. And shaking his head, he understood one thing now. His dream was not to be a shinobi per se. His real dream, which he had not understood until now, was experiencing the world. He wanted it for the first time since he felt the cold sensation of snow on his hands. He wanted to go beyond his warm and pleasant comfort zone, beyond that happy bubble of illusion his parents had created for him. He wanted to feel everything this world had to offer. He wanted to feel the same way he felt the first time he touched the snow. Despite the cold, it was something fascinating. He can't even imagine how he would have felt if he had experienced something bigger than the touch of cold snow on his hands. If something so small could cause him such fascination and so many different emotions, what would cause something much, much bigger? Truly, he felt like a crippled ant, being spoon-fed gold by the very queen of the ant-hill who dreams of heaven. How ridiculous and pathetic at the same time. In the morning, Kushina quietly entered her son's room to wake him up for breakfast. She expected him to still be snoring deliciously, but he sat quietly on the bed and silently watched something outside through the window. "Naru-chan, darling, are you awake?" she asked, but Naruto didn't answer her, didn't even pay attention when she entered the room. She felt strange, perhaps because an unusually cool aura prevailed around him. She walked closer to her son and saw his blackened eyes, which most likely hadn't even slept a wink during the night, staring unconsciously out the window. He wasn't looking at anything in particular, it's not clear if he was looking and seeing at all, he was just sitting and staring into space. Naru-chan became deeply concerned and grabbed his arm. Something happened. It was only when he felt a slight tug that he turned his head and looked at her with the same blank stare. Kushina felt a shudder run through her entire body. She wasn't even sure if her son was looking at her, it was as if everything was invisible in his field of vision. "Nothing," he replied calmly, but in a voice practically washed out of emotion, "I was just thinking." Kushina froze hearing him. It was definitely nothing. Something definitely bad happened that saddened Naruto to such an extent. "Naruto!" For the first time in her life she shouted at her son, "Tell your Kei-chan what happened. I know you're hiding something," she demanded, at which he twitched slightly. He blinked his eyes once, maybe twice, before life returned in them, and after a while they became wet. This, Kushina seemed to twitch at this sight. Without thinking, she hugged him to her chest whispering, "Calm down, it's okay." It was probably the first time she had seen such a picture of her eldest son. I managed to howl before 2 streaks of long tears involuntarily flowed from his eyes. "Sure. I'm sorry, Naru-chan, it's okay, you'll tell me in your own time," she said gently, massaging his back. "For now, hug me tightly and cry it out." "It will help," she recommended, and he no longer held back and began to cry loudly. He felt all the loneliness he had gathered in his heart during that one night instantly leave. He couldn't hold back his tears when she came to him and bestowed upon him that warm, motherly aura. He was truly very lucky to have such a dear Kei-chan. 3 years have passed. Namake's Naruto turned 8 years old some time ago. A lot has changed in the past few years since he learned the truth and confessed everything to his parents. On the same day that Kushina found him heartbroken, he cried it all out, then asked her if it was true, showing her the documents. He talked to his parents about it for a long time afterwards. They no longer hid anything and explained everything to him. He understood their point of view and thanked them for everything. In a year's time, his younger brother, Menma, would enter the Shinobi Academy and begin his 5-year training. Naruto, unfortunately, did not have such a chance and had to study at home on his own. He familiarized himself with the Academy's education system and within 2 months learned by heart all the theory and knowledge that can be obtained there. Then he began to study medical knowledge. At first he learned the basic knowledge that could be obtained from the medical school founded by Tsunade, and later he took on more advanced topics. During this time, he also possessed a great deal of knowledge in fields such as herbalism, alchemy, and advanced biology. He learned like crazy all the things that could help him recover. As for his condition, his best days were gone. Ages 6 and 7 were the best period, where he was able to balance and walk on his own. After that, he began to slowly lose his strength, as if he was aging. If one were to compare his level of vital energy roughly with a normal person, he would be over 50 years old. Even his very light blonde hair began to fade and turn grey. Come on, his body didn't wrinkle like an old man's, but it could definitely be seen slowly passing away. "Let's go, Naru-chan, I've prepared a warm bath," called out Kushina and helped him reach the bathroom. "If you need anything, call out." She reminded him, "Don't be shy either if you want to take a bath with your Kei-chan. I'll help you wash your back," she offered, but Naruto firmly rejected it, and Kushina giggled, seeing his little blush hidden on his cheeks. He sighed heavily, leaning against a bathtub filled with warm water. He didn't step into it, but watched the steam rising with calm eyes. "Comfort only kills me," he stated coldly, draining all the warm water. He went inside only when the tub was empty and turned off the stopper, then began to pour the icy water until it filled him almost to his neck. His body trembled slightly from the cold, but his eyes were hard and unyielding. Dark, perhaps a slightly dull blue, they were definitely different in color from the eyes of his father or mother. It had been maybe 20 minutes since he had started his bath, and he felt himself getting weaker. A slight dizziness did not cause him to leave. A minute passed, then 2, and his vision wanted to blur. His whole body cried out to get out, but he thought resolutely, "Just a minute more." Another minute later, he began to lose consciousness due to the extreme cold. At that very moment, he bit his tongue hard and, with all his willpower, grabbed onto 2 opposite ends of the tub with his hands, trying to lift his trembling body. He practically lost feeling in his hands, but continued to wrestle stubbornly, trying to get up. Half a minute later, he was barely able to sit with his buttocks on the edge of the tub and put his legs over the other side. If he had stayed there another minute, he would have definitely lost consciousness. His parents knew he liked to take long baths, so they didn't bother him. Kushina would only ask if he was okay about 40 minutes after she left. So he would stay here for another 15 minutes or so before they noticed him unconscious. You could tell he was fighting for his life by staying so long in the icy water. He didn't do it because he had suicidal thoughts, he did it for several important reasons. He wanted to prove to himself that he could overcome his body's weaknesses, that he had a strong enough will to do so. Besides, cold baths improve the body's immunity and prolong life, which is very beneficial for him, but is it worth it, to risk so much? People would answer no, but Naruto says otherwise. Each such bath strengthens his resolve and shows what discipline he has for himself. He has given up warmth and comfort in favor of a strong mind. Pleasures like a warm bath only distract him and make his mind lazy. He wiped himself dry and waited for it to warm up, while trying to move his body to make it happen faster. He also learned to breathe properly to warm up his body quickly so that it would return to the correct temperature. A minute before Kushina usually asks him if he's okay, he quietly walked out of the bathroom. Holding onto the wall with all his strength, he tried to move toward his room. However, he didn't even make it halfway down the hall, and he was seen, not by Kushina or Minato, but by his Oni-chan. "You're crazy!" shouted his younger sister Himiko. She quickly ran up to him, helping him keep his balance. "Why aren't you calling out to anyone? You know that walking alone is hard, don't you?" she yelled at him. Although she was 3 years younger, she was his height and was even heavier than he was, due to eating large amounts of ramen. Which was also not healthy according to Naruto, but she was strangely obsessed with them. Naruto did not answer his sister, he felt embarrassed. It was humiliating for him to have his younger sister, whom he should be taking care of and spoiling like other older brothers do, help him walk. He couldn't look her in the eye. Himiko and Menma knew about their older brother's poor health, but they didn't know any details. Their parents had taught them to always help him if necessary, and so they did. He wasn't angry with them, he was angry with himself. Himiko helped lead him to his room, where he sat on the bed tired. "Don't be silly next time, Onii-chan." Himiko didn't finish her reprimand. "You know I will always help you, so call me when you want to do something. Don't be a stubborn donkey and let me help you." Naruto just nodded his head. His sister was really nice. She never complained about his disability, and he never heard from her that she was tired of helping him or any other rude words that might have come from her mouth. When he was still able to walk, he often played with her and spoiled her a lot, but unfortunately his condition began to deteriorate and his time spent with her was exchanged for lying in bed and studying. However, even then, Himiko would come to his room and they would talk a lot or play some games. "Stupid Onii-chan," stated Himiko at the end and hugged him. She was a bit like a koala. She liked to stick to him and not let him go. He really regretted that he couldn't be a better big brother to her or to Menma. "Forgive Himiko-chan, he just doesn't want to be dependent on you." "I don't mind," she replied practically at once. "But it's something personal," he admitted, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly. "What could it be?" she inquired curiously. Naruto, however, merely snapped a finger at her forehead, to which she groaned. Naruto was reading a science book in the evening, describing research done by some scientist on animals. It was about unconditioned reflexes, or reactions that occur in the body without our willpower. This happens, for example, when we accidentally touch something hot and reflexively withdraw our hand. In the book, a guy conducted an experiment where he gave one animal, more precisely a certain breed of dog that was sometimes aggressive and difficult to tame, a certain specific that increased aggression several times. He locked the dog in a sealed room, and right next to it, in a second room, another animal, quite gentle in its nature. Although the two did not see each other and had no right to know about each other, the dog produced so much murderous intent that the animal next to him fled to the opposite side of the cage in fear. Its body was tense and its eyes were constantly searching for danger. The experiment confirmed that animals, which are naturally better sensory than humans, are capable of sensing danger, and their bodies immediately, practically completely without their knowledge, start looking for a way to survive. They can't control it, it happens in them unconditionally. Naruto closed the book on the last page. "As a rule, this has been known for a long time. The visitor simply confirmed something natural in nature," he replied wearily. His eyes were hurting, and with each passing day he noticed that his vision was getting worse. This could have been influenced by the fact that he reads after nights, but he believed that his eyesight would have deteriorated anyway, even without that. He sighed grimly. "I feel like an old man. Even already half my hair is gray." Naruto was with his mother for his weekly checkup at Konoha's main hospital. Tsunade was currently examining his eyes, and her face was not happy. "Well," she mused for a moment, "you have short-sightedness, but for now it's still quite small. In a few months it might get bigger," she admitted. "I can't say you have good eyesight either, but it's strangely sharp when it comes to far-sightedness. Your eyeballs are well innervated and strong. Do you use any eye exercises?" guessed Tsunade's reason. Naruto nodded. For some time, he admitted. He had been dedicating an hour each day to exercise for fear of losing his eyesight. To be exact, it was twice a day, half an hour each, morning and afternoon. There are 6 muscles in the eyeball, 4 straight and 2 oblique, which can be exercised and strengthened like a muscle. The eye is also made of 98% water and 2% hyaluronic acid and collagen fibers. Exposing himself to the morning sun, Naruto takes in about 30,000 units of vitamin D3 for half an hour, which is very good for the eyes, and takes in from food or juices a good dose of vitamin C and collagen, which also help maintain good vision. That's good, they improve the condition of your eyes and increase your long-range acuity, but unfortunately they don't affect your short-sightedness, Tsunade admitted. I know. After doing the rest of the checkups, Tsunade continued, as for your general condition, no major changes. Jiraiya, Naruto's godfather, has just returned to the village from some long-delayed spy mission. He had come to the Namake's family for dinner today at Minato's invitation. Together they entered the house just in time, when Kushina was already about to set the table. He was really glad that he could taste delicious food instead of consuming those soldier pills all the time, which have no taste at all. He was also able to finally see his godson and the other kids of his apprentice after a long time. Such visits by Jiraiya's uncle were not unusual. Every time he returned from some mission, he visited their home and brought various gifts to the children. That was also the case this time. They had dinner together, and he stayed here until the evening. He told some story about his shinobi adventures or some funny jokes, but at one point, Naruto caught some interesting change. Nature's energy? He asked, looking away from the book he was reading, and Jiraiya hesitated for a moment. This is an energy that, as the name says, can only be collected from the atmosphere and terrain. If a person can gather natural energy around him and combine it and balance it with his own spiritual and physical energy, which together form chakra, he then becomes a sage and enters sage mode, which allows him to use senjutsu. Jiraiya described it briefly to him, not wanting to hide it from Naruto. After all, he can't do anything about it anyway. I read about it once. It is a bit like vital energy, am I right? It strengthens the body to unimaginable levels, and the chakra itself becomes very powerful with natural energy. Naruto's parents looked at him strangely and a little suspiciously. Yes, however, it is very difficult to control, and currently there are only a few senjutsu users in the world. Ordinary people will turn to stone if they try to use it, he said, trying to make him aware of the consequences, so that nothing stupid would come to his mind. Come to think of it anyway, he doubted he would have any exposure to it at all, much less the knowledge of how to do it. Oh, sighed indifferently Naruto and went back to reading his reading. I see. Some time later, when Jiraiya was about to leave, Kushina asked him, maybe you want to stay with us for the night? I'll prepare a guest room for you. She suggested, but he waved his hand. No need, I'll go visit Tsunadeheim. I haven't seen her in a long time, he explained with a strange gleam in one eye. Oh, I understand, Kushina replied, but after a moment she remembered something. At the moment she usually stays in the hot springs until late, drinking sake while doing so I don't know if you will have a chance to see her. I know, that's why I'm going, he replied shamelessly, and Kushina twitched, realizing that he was just going to peep at her. In the next few moments, you could see the legendary Sannin, the self-talking Rapuxi Puzzlenik, prancing around with a big bump on his head in front of the furious wife of the fourth Hokage. Many pots or pans or other kitchen utensils flew through the air, and he nimbly dodged them before disappearing somewhere in some dark alley of Konoha. At that time, all three children, along with her husband, looked at Kushina with a horrified look. KKA-chan, howled a terrified Menma, seeing his mother's hair floating slightly in the air. He swore to himself at that moment that at all costs, he would never piss her off again. Oh. I have to get up early tomorrow, good night, replied Minato quickly, before disappearing into his room. After a while, Menma, too, along with Himiko, disappeared, leaving their older brother to fend for himself. Naruto looked stunned from side to side, not knowing what had actually happened. He looked at his mother and blinked his eyes confusedly. Am I so dreadful to you? Her demeanor immediately changed, turning practically 180 degrees, revealing her gentle side. No, Kei-chan. They just are fooling around. Naruto immediately found some excuse. Come on, I'll hug you, you'll be better off, he suggested, sticking his arms out towards her. Oh. You really are such a good son of your evil mother, she moaned with moist eyes and hugged her son tightly. Pack. Naruto patted her gently on the head, and Himiko from her room leaned her head slightly through the open door. Oni-chan is really amazing. He just tamed a beast, she sighed in admiration. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this chapter of What If Naruto, the Fateful Uchiha? The journey is just beginning, and there's so much more to unfold. If this video gets enough views, you can expect the next part soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated. Your feedback is always appreciated. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you in the next one.